So this is pretty serious, and I think everybody have been saying this for years and years and years. And with the new government, nothing's ever going to change, unfortunately, in terms of the feds of this state. We have to have bought new army helicopters, so we'll give them that. But in terms of the naval service, because at the moment the main threat, in my opinion, along with espionage, is underwater cables. We have a lot in Ireland going across the Atlantic. And basically, what I'm trying to say is there's only one whole ship in the whole country in the Navy operational at the moment. And this is the next point. This is the main worry for me. Because at the moment, the one Navy ship that's on patrol around 1 million square inches of Irish territorial waters. Because Irish territorial waters are big, they're huge. It's nearly the size of the country. It's that much, like especially out in the Atlantic, not so much in the Irish Sea. But the Irish territorial waters go on for a long distance. And there's only one ship to do it because the main problem is, and there's no solution, the government is saying they're going to hire more troops and all that. But that's all well and said and good. But this is the thing, there's more people leaving the defence force, both Army, Navy and Air Corps, than there is joining. And that's only because they're not getting paid to do it. People get more to work in Tesco. All these politicians, the Minister of Defence, Paul Keogh, etc., they're all getting their big pensions, though they're all getting well paid. But this is the thing. The only Joe in the Navy is not getting that much. I know they give the naval allowance too for active duty on the high seas, etc. To increase that. I do recognise that. That's a good step in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it's not sufficient, especially because again, these men and women have to pay their bills, have children to bring up, and they're putting themselves in huge danger in the armed forces, willing to sacrifice themselves for the defence of the state. And as we see now, and the Chief of Staff, Sean Clancy, is a former Air Corps person, he said 2 weeks ago that no Irish Navy ship will go out without any army. Like, the guns are not working pretty much, they're not being maintained on the naval ships because they haven't got the people to maintain the guns on the ship. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is that has come to fruition. He said it wouldn't happen. I called it bullshit when I first told it because, let's be fair, it's going to happen. It has happened. As we speak now, the Irish ships are going out with they can't operate their guns because they're not being maintained. So pretty much the ships are going out with no active guns basically on it. What I'm trying to say, the foot gun is not working, the machine guns on it are not working because they're not being maintained. Guns can't work unless you maintain them, especially naval ships because they have to be maintained regularly, etc. So pretty much they've been sent out now, unarmed ships sending out to sea. And as I say, smuggling, and particularly Ireland, as I say, with human trafficking. We've seen last year with the seizure of that ship off the coast of Cork with hundreds of millions of euro worth of drugs. That's how they're coming into the country. We've just seen the other day too that on Garda Síochána O'Connor arrested the good few people in Kerry with drugs, etc. They thought they brought in €100 million worth of cocaine into the country. And obviously that's coming from a mothership. What I mean by mothership in terms of that, it's a big container ship, as we've seen in that case last year here in Ireland, and take for example in Finland recently with the underground cables, big container ships. They're coming in, the drugs are on them, and they're coming in small diggies into Ireland, because obviously a big cargo ship can't just pull up because customs will check it, etc. So that's how they're coming in. They're coming in on small boats and landing on the shores of our country. And there's nothing really that can be done to stop them because there's no really navy to stop them, to seize the ships or to patrol Irish waters. And this is being used to their advantage. Drug lords and human traffickers are making millions of euros. They're running away with it. And we have to address it because it's a serious national security concern, along with espionage at the moment, because there's definitely foreign agents acting in this country at the moment. On behalf of the Russian Federation, on behalf of the United Kingdom, probably MI5 is still here somewhere. MI6, Drew Howard, maybe himself. That's why nothing's been done about that, but but there's definitely foreign agents around here too. They're definitely active around here, especially most likely the Russians, as I say, because remember the Iraq is probably a Russian agent. But the main issue for me, and as we've seen recently in Finland and in the Baltic Sea, cables being cut and stuff with anchors, etc. The same could happen here because pretty much Finland has a navy. There's loads of warships dotting around the place in the Baltic Sea, but the Estonian Navy, all the Baltic navies, the Swedish Navy, the Norwegian Navy, the Danish Navy, they're all patrolling the Baltic over here. On our own pretty much. There's nobody to patrol our waters. At the moment in time, the Irish government are trying to get the NATO to basically patrol Irish waters because the Irish government won't pay anybody to do it. Won't pay their own troops to serve on Irish ships to patrol our waters. So we're going running to NATO to ask them to look after our waters, which is utterly ridiculous. Michael Collins be spinning his grave going around asking other countries to defend our sovereignty is insane. It's ludicrous. Going to the Royal Navy particularly, it's ludicrous. After fighting 800 years, we asked them to patrol our waters again. Like, it's insane. And the same with the skies. Yeah, OEF have to patrol our skies. It doesn't make any sense. But it's a huge national security concern, as we've seen, because there is underground cables, underground internet cables, along with other cables that are going from here to the United States, to Canada, to other parts of the world too. Because Ireland obviously being the first country really in Europe, to the European Union, etc., etc. All the underground cables from the United States are coming through Ireland, and not to mention in the Irish Sea too. There's cables going from Ireland to the UK, etc., etc. And pretty much they're just pretty much open goals at this stage. And the worrying thing about it is, and I forgot to mention this, there is Russian ships, Russian kind of trawlers, as we've seen in Finland, container ships, etc., etc. The Shadow Fleet is what we call it, dotting around the Irish coast, like bobbing around for no reason around the Irish coast. Very with like, wouldn't mind the deliverance up and somewhat. They're just kind of dotting around. They're not going into port or into that. So it's very suspicious stuff that's going on around the Irish coast, especially around Cork in the Atlantic. So it's very suspicious. We've seen in Finland too what happened. So they'll probably just setting it up, see what's going on. But it's very worrying. Even as I speak now, I think the Air Corps is watching the Russian ship that's not too far away from our coast. They shouldn't really be here. They have no really business to be here unless they're delivering cargo in some country. But they're pretty much just botting around the sea, which doesn't make any sense. They're not a fishing vessel. They're just kind of container ship. For whatever reason, they're dotting around. But yeah, it's a huge national security concern because again, the Navy can't open fire on any ship if a hostile ship came into our waters, etc., etc. There's nothing, or even fishery take for example, all the foreign fishing boats from every Timbuktu country could come over here and just fish every fish out of the ocean, and there'd be nothing really done because there's no Navy to stop them. What are we going to do? Send out fishing trawlers to stop them? But no, it is very big security concern for me. Especially now that the guns can't even operate. It's bad enough that we have like loads of ships. Like there isn't ships, but they're all docked in port because there's nobody to put on the ships. There's nobody to man the ships, and only one ship is a disgrace. That we have ships lying in port. They could be operational, but the Irish government decides fuck that. We don't want to pay anybody. We get NATO to do it. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you run away to NATO or any other country, by the way? We should be able to do it ourselves. We're not able to defend ourselves. Like, it's insane. But it's very worrying, and we have to take it serious, our security. Because this is very, very worrying, and I say this very, very worrying, because I can see it. I can see the danger coming. It will happen, unfortunately. It will happen someday. The cable will be cut off the Irish coast, etc. So it's only when. It's not... it's the question of when it's going to be. It's not how or when, which Christmas. It's pretty much inevitable at some point it will happen because there's not just enough security to patrol all Irish territorial waters. There's just not. It's just not there. And every other country knows this, that Ireland's the weak link in terms of defending our shores and defending our coastline, etc., etc. Not even that in the air, etc., etc. Like if you look at GDP, just in the last few things, if you look at GDP, take for example, for argument's sake, out of all the countries in Europe, Ireland's at the bottom. Malta has a bigger defence spending than Ireland. Think about that. Malta, a small island in the Mediterranean, has a bigger defence spending than Ireland at the moment. Ireland only spends about €1 billion, a bit more maybe recently, which is not sufficient really, because the main issues is not equipment, it's just pay and conditions. To pay the people properly and give them a proper decent wage. That'll solve itself really pretty much overnight. But they just want to arse around pretty much. They're just arsing about getting equipment and stuff. As I say, with the two naval ships from New Zealand, they're probably just lying in port. I don't know what they're doing. And the same with these two army helicopters. Haven't got the technicians in the Air Corps. It's just all... Like, I don't know who's deciding this in the army, in the Department of Defence, all this stuff. Because the solution is to pay the troops better. That's the simple stat. Because it is a tough job. It's not an easy job going for the army, the Air Corps, the Navy, take for example. You're away from home, etc., etc. You're out at sea. It's not an easy job. You have to be fit, you have to be medically fit, etc. It's a lot of effort, time and effort, and a lot of sacrifices. And as we've seen recently with Private Sean Rooney too in Lebanon too, with peacekeeping. Things like that can happen. It's not a joke of a job. It's a serious. It's life or death pretty much in the defence forces. But yeah, let me know what you think, and talk to you later. Bye.